Hey everybody, I am back with a new comic book review, and today I'll be covering the Marvel event Civil War, which came out in 2005, 2006, and during the next course of the probably a couple of years, you know, Marvel is going to be going through some crap. Because after this, it would be like the comic event Secret Invasion, uh, introducing like the Dark Avengers. After that, yeah, Marvel's gonna be going through some crap because the superhero community will be just completely fractured. This is written by Mark Millar and art by what's his name? Steve McNeven. And before I continue, please do me a huge favor and leave a comment below. Let me know what you think of the comic Civil War, because I just finished my movie review of the movie adaptation of Civil War, Captain America Civil War, and in all honesty, handles better than this. But honestly, this is still, in general, better than Civil War 2 that was super forced uh in you know during the whole period with the movie that they try to make another Civil War, and it did not work. uh, at the very least, this felt more natural. Anywho, now there's been quite a few tie-ins with this, but what I'm going to be sticking to is obviously the main event. But I also want to include the road to Civil War in this, which is just a short little story where the Illuminati, who in the comics is made up of Reed Richards, Black Bolt, Namor, Professor X, Stephen Strange, and Iron Man, who has, each of these guys, and on a rare occasion Black Panther, but mostly those six who have are like the representative of certain facets of the Marvel universe, at least Earth base, and they met up in Wakanda, which Black Panther is hosting, and they meet in secret, and they well, at least Iron Man had an idea, that the fact that there was an idea to bring together a group of remarkable people. But in all seriousness, Iron Man has an idea where that we need to pull our resources, because any type of intergalactic threat comes about, one of our little sections of this planet will normally have to deal with it. But if we act on a unified front, pretty much like a full-on superhero police force in a way, anytime somebody try to pose a threat, we can easily, superheroes can easily be dispatched to deal with that threat in a unified front. And it will help. It will greatly benefit, any one of us, like especially the X-Men and the at least the mutant population in general, as well as the Inhumans, and establish good relations between the Atlanteans and the surface world. And they, in this pose a concern for Black Panther, because he's a very intelligent himself. He sees the writing on the walls with this, because he realized, okay, this doesn't seem like a good idea. Matter of fact, he just warns them. It's like end this, walk away from this table and go home. It's like there's a reason the scrolls had such an easy time trying to turn the world against us, because deep down everyone knows that the time that time could happen, and now it has. Because basically, like, you pretty much think like, oh, you all know better, and you're trying to keep it a secret, even from like your friends and family. It's like, why didn't y'all bring Captain America in on this? Because you know he would probably be against something like this. Because, I mean, I like it in concept. Because currently in the DC comics, they're pretty much kind of like, bringing all the superhero communities together, similar to how you saw in Justice League Unlimited TV series. I kind of wish we could get something like that with the Marvel comics. But here, because it's a little bit more real world, is that, as Namor will eventually point out, we can't even like agree half the time. And you want to keep, and you're already keeping secrets from your loved ones. Uh, uh, they use like the UN as like a good example. It's like, they spend more time talking rather than getting things done. We'll end up just like that eventually. But we just can't get our act together half the time. And Namor points out that, how many, any one of us has a superhero on our team that have done some serious stuff that the public just don't generally like. You can't, he points to Professor Xavier. You can't control half of, the mutants that go to your freaking school, and even half of that goes freaking crazy. Iron Man, didn't the Scarlet Witch, cause some issues with you? And she's an Avenger. He points at, Black Bolt. It's like, didn't your brother try to take over your country? It's like, we can't not. It might start off pretty well, but something might go awry that will tear us up from the inside out. This is not a good idea. So they all just, put to vote, and all but Namor raised their hand like, yeah, we will meet in secret. We will discuss things how we see fit and how we should move. But then they meet on a rare occasion. It's not a frequent thing. Next time they meet, it was long after the events of Genosha and the eradication of like a lot of mutants. Professor Xavier at this time is missing, and they utilized him a lot in order for Black Bolt to be able to communicate with us. Now they gotta rely on his hand gestures, so because Black Bolt's power, he can't speak without causing like a shockwave of some sort. But they're discussing. Well, genocide happened, but they're not here for that. They're here to discuss the whole situation after Hulk went on a rampage. I forgot what superhero he was fighting at the time, but he ended up tearing up Las Vegas. And this will lead into Planet Hulk, where they, retroactively decide to ship him out to space. So for his benefit as well as the population's benefit, because Banner couldn't control the Hulk, and a lot of people suffer for it. And they figure, oh, this is the best course of action. And Namor, states in protest, is like, Banner's your friend. And it's like, you guys, could just cure him. It's like, but you decide to go the easy way out and just ship him off the planet. What the heck is wrong with you all? And not a lot of people, there's comic book readers out there in the world that don't usually care for Namor because of his kind of arrogant, princely, kind of attitude. But you raise a good point. The fact that, just because one of your friends is a momentary problem, instead of trying to help him, you decide to just get rid of him, altogether. So that way, it's just like, it basically say like you're bad friends. And like, how long is it going to be before you turn against any one of you will turn against any one of us? And Reed states like, I've been trying to help Bruce a long time. I've been working with a lot of intelligent scientists. We all trying to peel back the layers of this complex thing with gamma radiation to try to cure him. So don't come to me saying like I wasn't doing anything. What have you done? So clearly, these guys is like, okay, they can't get their stuff together. Like, clearly, this is already coming unglued. But Namor's right. This is your friend, and the Hulk has saved the world many times. But you shipping him off the planet isn't like a viable solution. Clearly, if you read Planet Hulk and World War Hulk, you know how that fell apart. Namor points out to Iron Man, it's like, what about your drinking problem, Stark? You fall off the wagon one day, like, should we ship you off the planet too because you might be in momentary danger? Like, Tony thinks like that's not the same thing. But these two end up getting to a fight that Doctor Strange have to break up, and Namor kind of pieced out. It's like, okay, T'Challa's right. This is effed up. Then the fairly recent meetup, but it's kind of like an emergency meeting because at this point, Xavier's still missing. And this, Tony is bringing to the Illuminati's attention about the Superhero Registration Act, or if you watch the movies, they call it the Sokovia Accords, but comic book readers will remember it being the Superhuman Registration Act. And Tony managed to figure out that they're planning on implementing this pretty soon. And this is, like I said, this is the road leading to. Right now, it's already going to fruition after the events of the Stanford incident. But I want to bring up this panel because I think it's like hit home in a lot of ways. So I didn't want to mince words. I'm a futurist. The way my mind works, the way Reed's mind works, we can intuit the future. That's why we are such successful inventors. We know what people will need before they even know they're going to need it. And now I'm going to tell you the future. A hero, probably a young one of the young Avengers or those kids in Los Angeles, Some carefree, happy-go-lucky, well-meaning young person with the best of intentions will do something wrong. He'll be trying to save someone, do something heroic, but he'll make a mistake. Turn to the left instead of to the right, and people will be hurt or killed because of it. And it'll either happen on live TV or it'll be recorded. And like Rodney King, it'll play over and over and over all over the world until the earnest that is already bubbling will boil over. And every politician looking to make a name for himself will run right on TV, and they'll tell America how they are going to save the world from these out of control costume characters who think the law doesn't apply to them. And half of us will be along, and half of us will go along with it, and half of us won't. And because of this mini rebellion, our lawmakers will be forced to make an example of someone like our friend Spider-Man, someone they can make a real spectacle of, someone they can unmask on TV, destroy his marriage and family, and pin a crime or two on, all for the whole world to see. And the country will rupture. Sides will be taken and people will get hurt. Friend against friend, people who used to be adversaries finding themselves teamed up against a common cause. Friends dying at the hands of a former ally or teammate. That is what will happen. And he's right. It will play out exactly like this. As much as people give Tony crap, he's pretty smart. Him and Reed are the smartest beings, along with T'Challa, are the smartest beings in the Marvel universe, and they can easily, run those type of calculations. I'm shocked that it hasn't happened by this point, up until this point. But he's presenting them with the paperwork they already plan on putting to, or at least bringing it up to the news for the public to know about. He just managed to get a hold of it, so he can let them know what's coming. So this is why he wanted to set up this kind of like a unified team from the jump, so that way they could easily get ahead of something like this, train every young superhero properly their own way without any type of government oversight. So if something pops off, it'll be under our jurisdiction to handle it, rather than some government bootlegger trying to cause a complete crisis and upheaval. And lo and behold, it's starting to play out. So we see these team of youngsters who's running like a reality TV show. One of them is a cousin of Namor named Namorita, who, and I looked this up just in case, did they ever bring this girl back? No, she's still dead in the comics after all these years, 20 plus years, still dead. Never touched that character since. Finding that very weird. Speedball, who is going to be like a major player in this, well, not a major player, but I remember the video game, he was kind of like a component in that, but he will have like a major change moving forward. But anyway, these new superhero team called New Warriors is making a reality show of showing themselves trying to capture bad guys and everything like that. This day and age, they'll be social media influencers or something. But they're doing this whole MTV route. So they're being followed by cameramen and everything like that to try to hunt down a bunch of supervillains being held up in like a safe house or something. But because they are so crap at this, they get spotted very easily. They got a camera crew following them. Why wouldn't they be? And a fight breaks out. And this is in Connecticut, mind you. So while they're trying to stop them, and Speedball or somebody is trying to get his lines right or something, instead of neutralizing the situation accordingly, uh, uh, they end up slipping up and allowing one of them to escape. And one of them happened to be a mutant, mind you, named Nitro, who is not a B or a C list villain. This is like an A list villain among these other villains who I don't even recognize. Uh, he's trying to make a run for it, and then Maria gives chase. And failing to properly do any kind of doing shoddy recon, but not doing proper intel of who the players are on the inside so they can properly handle the situation and plan accordingly. Nitro, who has the ability to explode and reconstitute himself, blew up. It happened to be near the Stanford school that killed a bunch of people, majority of them children. And only Speedball and like a few other civilians were the survivors. You know, Namorita and the other new warriors, they're dead from my knowledge. Only Speedball was the survivor, thanks to his ability that changed, because he kind of turns like make it this kind of bubble state that he can use to ricochet himself around. It's gonna call him Speedball, not like the drug, but it overtaxed itself in order to keep him alive. It just barely kept him alive, but it went inert, and now it kind of changed. He eventually turned himself into Penis because the powers kind of went inward, and he's only be able to activate his powers if he feels pain. So he's going through his own little arc. He calls himself Penis, and he changed his costume to be kind of like an Iron Maiden type of suit, where it has these spikes on the inside that punctures his body when he puts it on. And the larger spikes, is the number of spikes on it is the amount of people that died during the Stanford incident. And the larger spikes, I remember him mentioning, is that those were represent the kids that were killed in that incident. So he has like a massive arc and didn't kind of go full circle until another Marvel event called Fear Itself, which I really want to go through because I remember watching reading bits and pieces of it, but not in totality. So I'm gonna put on a list to read and review that comic event for. It's on the list because, I remember bits and pieces and a cool concept. But anyway, so darn near all the superhero community has to come all the way to Connecticut in order to help with the cleanup. The Fantastic Four, the Avengers, some SHIELD agents, and along with the X-Men and some of the Inhumans have to help with the cleanup. And Captain Iron Man is just kind of like beside themselves. The fact that these kids were so foolhardy, didn't properly, like I said, gather the proper intel. They went in half-cocked, just ignorant of the situation, and this happened. It's just like I said, Iron Man predicted, something like this would happen. He didn't know exactly, but it's just like it was kind of inevitable. It was like a massive funeral that was held, and Tony went to pay his condolences. Then one of the moms of those children was there, saw him, spit in his face, and gave him a riot act, saying you and your superhero pals are the cause of this. like, my son is dead because of you all. And this kind of hits Tony hard. It's like, even though he knows he wasn't there actively, but you know, they could have prevented all of this. He's supposed to be the futurist. He's supposed to be able to like have the kind of countermeasures for all this stuff. Uh, so him, Yellow Jacket or Hank Pym, along with like War Machine and She-Hulk, Warbird, or you might know her as Captain Marvel, but I think a lot of people would prefer to get back to the whole Warbird. I think it's better costume personally anyway. But this day and age, they wouldn't accept no thigh-high boots or anything like that, even though it was probably like one of the best costumes in my personal opinion. But irregardless, they all agreed to sign the Superhuman Registration Act. All people with superpowers have to be registered, even if they're not going to use their superpowers at all. They still need to be monitored. So it's kind of like dog tagging a lot of them in a way. Cap obviously not down with this, and this is one of the issues with the at least the biggest glaring issues with this event. Nobody has any distinct dialogue. They all kind of sort of talk very similar. And a lot of them aren't behaving the way they typically would. And they really made Maria Hill look like an overall just bitch and a scumbag. Not one, and that's one of the biggest things why they try to force, well, at least when they forced Civil War II on us, where it was like Iron Man versus Captain Marvel this time around, they had to write in certain dialogue. It's like I want to actually have a conversation this time. I don't want to go and have cock because last time I was the bad guy, and I don't want to want to make sure that I exhausted all my options rather than doing, because it's pretty much like a word salad of an apology for the kind of writing that we got from the first Civil War comic, where these are talented writers. They should have known better anyway, but they really trying to make it still didn't work, but they really tried to make sure people have distinct reasons, distinct personalities, trying to not so subtly apologize for the lack thereof in the first one. Here, not Captain America isn't behaving like himself. Maria Hill's not behaving like himself. Iron Man's not behaving like himself or herself. So pretty much trying to force Cap to surrender and sign, and he's not having any of that stuff. He escapes and starts establishing a secret Avengers with like Luke Cage and Moon Knight and Daredevil, etc. Now, while he was escaping, and it was like at least to a funny dialogue that somebody found out that after he commandeered a Quinjet, he forced the pilot to land, and he bought him a burger afterwards as an apology for probably him going to be putting him through some grief because of his actions. So he ended up buying him a burger. Like, okay, that's definitely a Cap move. But beyond that, there's most of the time there's no distinct personalities. They all kind of act like assholes. But then while the rest of the superhero community is back at the Avengers Mansion or penthouse or whatever, they sitting there talking amongst themselves about like what could happen, what we should do, blah blah blah. And then all of a sudden, Uatu the Watcher shows up. All the superheroes can see him. Usually he remains invisible. He just watches. He never interferes, unless something extremely dire, like something like when Galactus first showed up. He knew that, okay, I got to act on this one. Normally, it's against everything that I believe in, but this is too pertinent to just sit back and watch. Here, he shows up. He doesn't interfere, but he watches. He shows himself as like an omen. And Reed and Doctor Strange knew, because they had run-ins with him more times than almost any of them, and they knew like this is an ill omen. He doesn't show himself unless something of great something of ill omen is about to happen, and it's too massive for and it's gonna be kind of like a world-changing event. He won't show up for anything else beyond that. So this fills him with great dread. So immediately, half of the superhero community are going to sign up with Iron Man, and this also includes Spider-Man. And then the other half are pretty much consider themselves criminals, being led by Captain America and Luke Cage and Sam Wilson. And they end up breaking out the Young Avengers like Wiccan, Stature, or Cassie Lang, Patriot, or Isaiah Bradley's son. So I thought I'd make sure I highlight that here, because we don't see them show up all that often. But I thought I'd highlight it here, because I think, since we've seen them here and there during phase 4 through 5, but they haven't really been utilized smartly. But they end up helping them breaking out of a transport, being taken to this prison, which will be called number 42. Because call it 42 because it's 42 out of 100 ideas that Reed and Hank Pym and Iron Man cooked up together in order to make sure the world is safe. But they managed to make their escape and get Wiccan to teleport them into one of Nick Fury's safe houses that he allowed Cap to utilize for his for the HQ. And they have to actually get new IDs from Nick in order to move about freely when they're not doing any kind of superhero stuff. Because now they're pretty much wanted criminals. Most of them actually have well-known identities outside of superhero stuff. So then Cap convinces Peter in unmasking himself, because Peter, at first believes in the cause. And at this point, he's married with MJ. The aunt knows about his identity. Now the rest of the world knows, including Jonah and everybody at the paper. Now, this is also going. There's a few Spider-Man tie-ins to this, and how that, how his world is turning upside down with that. But this will steer into the dreadful Spider-Man story One More Day, where he has to make a deal with Mephisto in order to get his secret identity back. He ends up, or like saving the life of his aunt, but pretty much like causing people to forget he's Spider-Man. No, wasn't One More Day. Yeah, the devil or Mephisto was involved, trying to save our man's life. I'm conflating it with the No Way Home situation, but it's kind of sort of the same. He's trying to make people, trying to get his secret identity back, and it cost him his marriage, which was so handled poorly. In any case, So now everybody knows that Peter Parker is Spider-Man, not just his closest allies. Reed ends up going to Wakanda to talk with T'Challa to see if he will join their cause. At this point in time, T'Challa and Storm are married. But he, T'Challa is kind of like disgusted. He doesn't want what's going on in America to spill over into Wakanda. He wants to stay out of it. Like Doctor Strange, who decided to be neutral to all this stuff, he doesn't want to pick any side. So he decides to start fasting and going to the North Pole to meditate until this is over, or you figure out a way to kind of like end this kind of conflict the proper way. And T'Challa wanted just to remain neutral to this. This is stupid as hell. And he knew that him and Namor knew this was gonna pop off. They didn't know how, but now the superhero community is pretty much like tearing itself apart. He doesn't want to get involved. And speaking of tearing itself apart, leading into a Fantastic Four tie-in, the Fantastic Four family is kind of like tearing itself apart. After the Stanford incident, when Johnny is trying to go to a club with one of his girlfriends, or the girlfriend of the week or something, you know how he is, he gets accosted by the crowd who call him like a baby killer, and he's trying to plead his case like, look, I wasn't even there. Then somebody goes upside his head with a bottle, and then he gets his ass stomped out. Nobody's trying to help him, and his girlfriend is kind of helpless. He's ended up in the hospital recovering because of that. Sue is not only mad about that, but also feeling neglected by her husband, who's putting all his time into this whole superhero registration act. But she sees this as like a net negative, because our friends are fighting against our friends. This is not good. Meanwhile, Tony goes to meet with Emma Frost, who at this point in time is running the Xavier School for Gifted Children. Now, this event comes after the whole House of M incident, which I've reviewed House of M comic up on my YouTube channel, so you can check out my thoughts on that one. And after Wanda said like no more mutants, the mutant population's dwindled down to 10%. So it's barely enough of them around. And Tony wants the X-Men on their side. He figures like, oh, this is going to be a benefit for both of us. But she doesn't want to get involved, since now that the population is such minuscule, all those people like Boulevard Trash and all those other mutant hating groups pretty much are just, at least the government by and large, is just leaving them alone. They're easily more monitored now. So as long as they mind the P's and Q's, because there's a sentinel just running patrols around the perimeter, not bothering them, but just making sure. So now they pretty much just like have to just live knowing that there's so little of them. They're trying to keep themselves as safe as possible, because they're darn near extinct because of Wanda at this point. And Tony tried to bring up the whole situation with the Stanford and the loss of those kids. And Emma, I guess you can say cold. She was kind of being cold about that situation, but she shows Tony the mental image of the devastation that was Genosha, where like, look, you really don't want to compare notes with me right now, because you nor the Avengers were around to aid us when your American government dropped a bomb on us and killed lots of our children, but where were the Avengers? No, we're steering clear of this stuff. We're going to just mind our own business and let y'all handle it. It's safer for us. What little of us we have left, we just going to mind our business. You do you. So, and same goes with Adelan. Black Bolt getting met up by Sentry and eventually Iron Man shows up. It's like, we're not going to get involved either. Don't bother us. We don't get mixed up in this nonsense because it's most of them are our friends. We're not going to help fight our friends. No. So Wakanda's are Black Panther and Storm are neutral. Adelan is neutral. The X-Men are neutral. And Doctor Strange is neutral. So everybody else is pretty much picking a side and fighting. For a cause they both equally and understandably have an agreement, understand they're fighting what they believe is right, but at the sake of a lot of their friendships. And if you're wondering what happened to Nitro, he's ultimately killed, but like he brought back eventually. But Wolverine ends up tracking him down, which causes him come to conflict with Namor, who wants to bring Nitro in for execution, or at least face Atlantean justice because of the death of his cousin. But Wolverine wants to take him out because he ultimately, sides with Captain America, but he taking it upon himself to like going like a solo mission to take out Nitro because he sees it as he was the one responsible that not only killed all those people but orchestrated this giant fight that didn't need to be, which would also end up causing the any straggling supervillains on the sidelines to just take advantage of the situation so they can like do whatever while we too busy at each other's throats. One second. But Bishop, goes to meet up with Tony because he ends up believing in his cause because he sees in like a future that they might, how things go might transpire into his version of the future, but Cable sees it in a different way. So Cable ends up fighting for Cap while Bishop fights for Tony. There's a lot of moments I remember from the video game, honestly. Which I did like a reaction to of the cutscenes with and play the actual game up on my YouTube channel. Steve and his allies get word about some kind of situation at a I don't want to call it like a nuclear plant, but just like a industrial plant or something. Trying to find like possible survivors to help because they still need to do that too. But it was all a trap set up by Tony, knowing that Steve wouldn't resist. So it's pretty much like a massive standoff, but S.H.I.E.L.D. is backing Tony. He just pretty much like begging Tony, like begging Rogers, look, you know me for a very long time. I know you for a very long time. We can just give me 5 minutes so I can plead my case. We can just actually hash this out. And like we at least got enough friendship for that at least. He goes to shake Tony's hand, leaving a scrambler tech thingamajig, a goober. He left a goober on uh, Stark's hand, neutralizing his armor temporarily. Like I said, very uncharacteristically of Captain America to do this. Because moving forward, certain things that Cap does, he normally would not have done. It's very out of character for him. Similar to like half of these people, She-Hulk, Tigra, etc., etc. So now a full-on fight breaks out. Which after Iron Man recoups, him and Roger starts wailing on each other to the degree that since he's wearing like an armored suit, uh, uh, Cap, his face is all busted up and everything like that. Hercules, who's fighting on Cap's side, is trying to fight off other heavy hitters, because at this point in time, Thor is perceived as dead, and Hulk is in space. So neither side has like a big heavy hitter to utilize to really tip the balance in one or the other's favor. So you think. Until somehow Thor Deuce shows up fighting for Iron Man's side. But people quickly realize that ain't Thor, because Thor ends up calling down lightning and blasting a hole into Goliath's chest, killing him. Of course, I'm pretty sure he is brought back to life. Let me run a quick search here, because like I'm just so curious. Because knowing Marvel Comics, you never know who just ends up being brought back. They never brought back Namor Rita, so why would I not believe they wouldn't bring back Goliath? Oh yeah, technically Bill is still dead, and his nephew took up the Thomas Foster, because his uncle is Bill Foster, the one who died uh, in Civil War. Let me see. Yeah, technically he still is dead. Anyway, so uh, Iron Man and Reed shut down Thor because he's pretty much like a clone slash uh, cyborg. That they clearly didn't know how to properly control or keep or prevent him from actually taking a life. Uh, this caused Human Torch and Sue Storm to see and question Iron Man's side of things. But they Cloak managed to get most of Cap's team to the safe houses. But it's all messed up. You know, and Spider-Man ends up questioning things too. But here comes this woman who I think a lot of people really did not care for, because after burying Bill, who they couldn't somehow figure out a way to shrink him back down to a normal size, Tony flips the bill to, no pun intended, into buying up a bunch of plots all at once so they can dig it up properly so he can get a proper burial under his dime once again. And she shows up, gives him a Iron Man toy that belonged to her son, and tells him, like, don't waver. Like, I'm sorry for your loss, but don't waver, don't back down. Like, it's like, bitch, shut up. It's like, okay, you're not in a position to be grieving at this point now. It's his turn, and does he get to spit in your face this time? But no, it's like, oh my god, she's exacerbating the situation into a bigger fight. And I had to look it up just to make sure this woman's not some kind of scroll. Like I said, Secret Invasion happens after this event and further fractures the superhero community that's already strained as it is. And I'm thinking, like, oh, this girl must be like a scroll or something that's, exacerbating the, problem to cause like further divide and conquer between the superhero community. But no, she's just like a complete, grieving asshole. That I was gonna wait until later, but I might as well bring it up now. I had to look it up. This woman named Miriam, I think, in Fear Itself, that event, she has a moment there where she gets saved by Speedball, who they had some kind of heart-to-heart. She ultimately ends up forgiving him because she, prior to that, established some type of non-profit where to help families of people who lost loved ones during superhero fights and stuff like that. I mean, yeah, it's kind of like the situation where those Amber Alerts, how it started because, like a young child of a parent gets taken and they start like an Amber Alert. I understand where, to the extent where she's coming from, but the fact that she doesn't understand, take a moment to understand that, or at least, like I said, like, there's no smart writing. This is not a smartly written character because no reasonable person, despite them, they can still believe in this, part of the law, but also be human about it. Whereas, like, if it was me, I would have written like, look, I still believe in what we're doing, but I really don't want like your you losing people that you consider your friends and family, because I know how that feels, and this is like not what I want to happen. I just want these people to be held accountable for their actions. Be make sure it's there's some type of hierarchy, rule of law, something like that to keep things in check, so no innocent person will lose their life. So, like, I would highly encourage you guys to like actually talk it out or something like that. Show some little bit of empathy and not just like making it worse. And that drove me nuts. That's why I wanted to look it up, the other night to see like, okay, what happened to this lady? Because like, this is her only appearance in this event, but no, she showed in one more event just to forgive the guy who was naive on how to handle a superhuman threat. And that matter is just resolved, just in case you guys are curious about this person. But it's just like, I could not stand this bitch. But then things take a turn where Spider-Man decides like, okay, not you allow you cloned Thor, and or at least a clone robot of Thor murdered a man, and we were a part of that. You clearly have gone off the reservation here. I don't believe any of this crap anymore. So he ends up escaping, but Tony decides to implement the Thunderbolts. But this time it's more so actual villains instead of like anti-heroes. And to go chase them down. Two of which, one of them being like Jack-O-Lantern, chases him down, hit him with like a hallucinated drug. His costume's all messed up, even though it's supposed to be kind of like, well, not armor, but still more proof costume than that you would think it should be like bulletproof. Excuse me. So it should be able to tank certain ordinances. But he gets rescued by the Punisher, who's been watching from the sidelines and helping out where he can, but in a mask, which he almost never does. But knowing how things have spiraled, he thought it was best so he won't get caught, put it away in the midst of all this. So he decides he want to offer his skills to Captain America, which he's very hesitant on doing. Understandably, Cap, in normal circumstances, don't care for, Frank Castle's methods, and always want him to do something like go like a better way, not too dissimilar to Daredevil, who also gets locked up by Tony, who gives him a silver coin and call him Judas. I kind of like that. But nobody's too psyched to have to punish on that team, understandably. But his skills in infiltrating Tony Stark little compound in order to get some information about Prison 42 in the location of it so they can rescue all their captured friends was invaluable. And he was very good at it. While that was carrying on, a couple of people from Cap's side, like with Iron Man, but in reverse, losing faith in Cap's leadership, thinking like, oh, he's clearly lost it, to the point where it's like, okay, maybe we do need to get ourselves under control. So Cassie Lang, Stature, and Nighthawk, I don't know who that guy is, they decide to go to Iron Man's side and get registered because clearly, like, okay, we are out of control. We need to be watched. While Human Torch and Sue Storm and a couple other people decides to go to Cap's side because, like, oh wow, you got nothing under control, and you're hiring villains and you're making crazy cyborgs. Like, how's this is helping? Meanwhile, we get to see a little bit of Shield teaching new recruits who's been registered, because their overall, him and Reed's overall plan is to have a group of superheroes in each state of the U.S. in order to properly handle and make sure they're trained and guided in the right way so they can neutralize any threat that might spring up. Now, like I said before, this seems like a good idea because, and the initial idea was pulling all the resources together in one cohesive unit and not like some kind of government oversight, taking out the government oversight out of the equation. And like with Justice League Unlimited, doing something like that, I would love to see that in the Marvel Universe where no government is technically involved, where they pretty much dealing with themselves, having these kind of, Avengers cards, like the Justice League cards. They're mystically bound, technology bound, alien bound to be almost perfect, where they only can be used by the person with the ID, and get them to the Watchtower and all this other stuff. I want to see that with the Marvel universe, so that way they don't just be swapping out Avengers every other year out of like a core group or number. No, all of them are Avengers. Anyone can be called up at any time to handle a certain disaster that's happening around the world. That kind of thing. I would love to see that with the Marvel universe, or at least Marvel Comics. Cap sends Sue Storm to go meet up with Namor to try to see if he can get aid from him and the Atlanteans, because he figured they'll tip the side in their favor. Although Namor feels insulted because he quickly picks up that, like, you're first and foremost, you're not addressing me as Your Majesty because I am a sovereign king, but also I know that you didn't come here on your own volition. You, Steve is sending you here because he knows about my feelings towards you. So none of this is genuine. You just need my resources, which I'm not lending, and I'm insulted on top of all that, which is kind of fair. It's like nobody likes to feel used. Then things really take a turn where, since Iron Man has some villains working on his side, at least against their will, because they pretty much are chipped with bombs inside them, very Suicide Squad-esque, to keep them in line. But there are also certain villains who don't believe in all this mess and figure they can offer some aid to Cap's side, more a genuine feeling. But these are like very D-list villains anyway. So when Punisher sees them, knowing they're villains, turns around, shoots them down immediately. And Cap loses it. Like I said, not behaving like he usually does. He ends up darn near beating Frank mercilessly. Nobody's even trying to break it up. Because I guess they're in shock about what just happened. And Steve's telling Frank to fight back, and Frank was like, no, not against you. And he just tells everybody just to kick his ass out. I don't want to see his face. Which is just like, I understand, like, Cap will be mad, but it's just, he's at the point where he's kind of like, just like, okay, you will fight to neutralize him. You was darn near ready to like want a reason to beat him, because you was already agitated in the first place through this whole ordeal, through your feelings with Tony and how he is moving about the way he's moving, and you losing people to his side, irregardless of you gaining people from his side to yours, but it's not really making a dent in your ranks. And you losing more people on the street when they're just trying to help people, but they're getting locked up in the process. All that is taking a mental toll on him, clearly. But like, it just could have been better handled. So, as they are infiltrating Prison 42, which they end up finding out it in the negative zone, because there's no other prison on Earth that could hold a villain long enough before they somehow get a way to escape, either through the inside, making some kind of, Shawshank Redemption type of escape, or finding somebody on the outside to liberate them. Taking away the access is just put like a prison separately on another planet of dimension, so that way there's no way even if you manage to escape the prison, you cannot escape a dimension. So you would still be stuck there with no way out except via the guards or a superhero. So once again, it's another trap laid by Iron Man, because he knew all this was going down because Tiger was a devil agent on Cap's side, which Cap already knew. So that's why he made a plant on Iron Man's side, thinking it's Hank Pym, but turns out it's Hulkling, a Skrull superhero that goes by Hulkling, whatever. Uh, so, Black Panther and Storm show up after the death of Bill Foster. That really uh, changed their mind about the situation, realizing how things have turned. And thanks to them, they managed to liberate a lot of their superhero comrades from Prison 42. This causes like a massive fight with like from Iron Man's side all the way to like Cap side. But it's too tightly of a space, and this is more Iron Man's kind of like home turf, so he will have the advantage. So they get Cloak from Cloak and Dagger to teleport all of them to Manhattan, like I think right in front of Baxter Building or like a few blocks from the Baxter Building, and it just spills over into the streets, where it's just like hero against hero, sprinkle in a couple of villains on Iron Man's side, and it's a recipe for disaster. Spider-Man expertly, dealing with a couple of villains on Iron Man's side and knocks out Reed Richards. Iron Man tries to go look for Cap to deal with him personally. But here comes the cavalry of Namor and the and his Atlanteans to fight for Cap's side. I guess he was swayed by Sue, considering that, hey, this is your longest friend. It's like he asked him for your help, because what's stopping Iron Man's side of things trying to come down to Atlantis to make you register? But I'm thinking to myself, like, nothing. Similar to how Black Panther won't be touched because they're a sovereign government. It's with expert technology. They can fend off, something like any other world superpower. The only real threat, either Wakanda or Atlantis have with any nation is with each other, because they're probably equally yoked in terms of technology, because those two particular countries are probably far more advanced than any other country in the Marvel Universe. Then Taskmaster, who's been shipped and forced to fight for Cap's side, tries to neutralize the Invisible Woman. Reed jumps in front of the blast, tanking it, forcing Sue to utilize an invisible kind of barrier to crush Taskmaster. Which see like an awesome display of Sue Storm's power. So things are really spiking. So got one last slide. So they send in the cyborg Thor, but Hercules, more prepared this time, takes it on. But he's also infuriated because him and Thor are great friends. And the fact that Iron Man dares to insult, because like I said, he's technically dead at this time, to insult Thor's memory, he thought it was such an egregious act that he taken upon himself to destroy this thing. And I really want to, I should look up like a Marvel Hercules story to review, because I don't think many people have reviewed like a Hercules story. So I thought I might give it a shot. I mean, like, if you guys know like a good Hercules story, leave a comment below. So, and this part gets very heavy-handed. Now, when Cap is beating on Iron Man, practically on the verge of winning, the civilians on the street comes to tackle Captain America down. You see paramedics, firefighters, cops, all these rescue workers. And mind you, this is only a few years after the events of 9/11. So emotions are still kind of raw about that. So they want to show this like rah unification, like the people is like, and like I get it, but this is so forced and heavy handed. I think we're so far removed from 9/11 at this point, we can be completely honest about like how things were moving at the time. Like with the airport, I think, the excessive, like, oh, I can't take this bottle of hand sanitizer or shampoo with me because it might be considered like a threat, or blah blah blah. And it's like, we definitely overdid it, we overreacted. And this is like another thing that's kind of telegraphed in certain media at that time, where it's like, oh, it's like the essential workers being propped up during the COVID situation. After the whole 9/11 thing, like all these rescue workers and cops and all this other stuff was being propped up so big at that time. So it's like, Cat will toss all of y'all away very easily. But I mean, you get the point where it's like, and Cap comes to realization after he looks around and see all this devastation with all him and his friends are pretty much fighting each other, and he points out, okay, we gotta stop. Everybody stand down, surrender, stop. We're not even fighting for a reason anymore. We're just fighting just for the sake of the fight, and we're losing the argument because of that. So him and the others end up surrendering after helping with like the relief effort. The Superhuman Registration Act goes into full effect. There's like a superhero team on almost every state. Others who, there's like Luke Cage and other Secret Avengers making an underground of Secret Avengers, while Cap is in prison awaiting trial. Other heroes who decided just to move to Canada. Black Panther and Namor, they just go to their respective countries. Matter of fact, I mentioned earlier that the relationship because of all this, the relationship between Storm and T'Challa gets uprooted, and ultimately it ends with them divorcing each other, which is a shame, because it makes sense for those two to have a relationship similar to how it makes sense that Superman and Lois Lane be together, and Peter Parker and Mary Jane to be together. It's just, those are like those kind of couples, like, yeah, it makes sense. They cannot be moving around with any other people but each other. It's not like with Remy LeBeau, who can play the field, but at the end of the day, his ultimate love is Rogue. So Maria Hill gets demoted, while Stark becomes the new director of S.H.I.E.L.D., which she's pretty ticked off about, understandably. But like I said, they really gave Maria Hill the shaft.
Phrasing?
While he's having like a conversation with Miriam, saying like, we got everything under control. Now things can move forward, and pretty much what happened at Stanford won't never happen again, blah, blah, blah. But once again, like I said, the next few years after this event, the Marvel Universe really goes through some trying times with Secret Invasion, the introduction of the Red Hulk, and him busting up a lot of the Avengers' ass. Yeah, and then the whole Dark Avengers that soon comes after that. So it's gonna be rough. But that is pretty much Marvel Comics Civil War. Now, it's still better than Civil War 2. Like I said, it was forced, clearly just under the hype of the movie. They try to like make another Civil War, which if it's like feels like more of like a mandate, or it feels so forced, it won't more than likely turn out good. While the first Civil War has its issues, it's still it still feels more organic because there was clearly a story that the writers wanted to tell. There isn't like exacerbated by the fact that there's some kind of promo of a movie coming out. And then there's like a honest to goodness dialogue. When this came out, there was, as well as with the movie, it was like an honest to goodness like discussion. You can easily have like if you want to have like a mock debate or a practice debate in school, you should utilize this because it gives like a good premise on like which side are you on. That's the tagline they were selling this movie or at least the comic on. Whose side are you on? Freedom versus security. It's like, are you against superheroes acting freelance, or are you with superheroes acting with their own agency? Because it's that the kind of like the biggest debate you can usually have, where it's like what are you willing to sacrifice? Most argue they will gladly sacrifice their privacy if it means that they can have the safety that they need. But then again, it's like you can never be 100% safe. There's always going to be something. But I guess in Civil War, the main component is making sure they at least safe from a possibility of a superhero misusing their powers or not being properly trained in order to deal with like a supervillain threat. Because the primary goal of a superhero is to minimize casualties and property damage as best as they could. Because you can see like from the Avengers or the Justice League or the Fantastic Four or the X-Men, they tried to make sure they minimize the overall damage, or at least localize the fight in one particular area so it won't spill over all over the place. And they try to make sure they focus on making sure innocent people are out of the danger first. But if they can help it, they'll just take the fight somewhere on neutral ground so nobody will get caught up or used as a hostage. But curious to know which side you might be on. Are you with Cap's side or with Iron Man's side? I mean, most people probably, because from what I understand from people growing up that I still talk to, they mentioned that when they was young, they were all about Cap's side. But as they grew older and had like responsibilities and all this other stuff, they grew to understand more on Iron Man's side of things. Me, I still maintain Cap's point of view, where, because a lot of them kind of utilize, Spider-Man as an example. It's like, you can ruin somebody's life because people who wear masks obviously is doing for a reason, because they want to protect their loved ones, because she'll not always going to be there and nobody's always going to be protected. And it's like, you got to give people that choice, and forcing them to work for a government or being tagged essentially, even if they choose not to use their powers for anything, being tagged and monitored that's breaking their privacy. It's against the law. So it's just like a honest to goodness great debate to have, and that's what it offers. So there's moments in here I like, but like I said, like the biggest issues, the characters not behaving like themselves. And of course, the epilogue of this, which happens in like a separate comic, Cap gets assassinated. I forgot who did the deed, but Frank Castle takes up the mantle of Captain America and combine his methods with Cap's costume, I guess, and decides to be like a new, more modern Captain America to take out bad guys. Eventually, Bucky takes up the mantle because Cap was dead for a while. Bucky takes over, and then Cap eventually comes back. Or then, no, U.S. agent eventually comes around too. But Steve Rogers eventually comes back. So, yeah. But that was Civil War. I think I will skip. It's going to be I'm going to hold off for a while before I get into the next Marvel event because there's a lot I need to read through. I'll read as much as I can and hopefully get it done, but I think I'll have that. Next week, I'll just be focusing on 2 movies back to back because it's like a part 1, part 2. I'm going to leave it as a surprise, but I will see you guys possibly later for some gameplay. I might, I might hop in for FF15. But in any case, I will see you guys later. Take care, and if at all possible, if you haven't already, please sub to the YouTube channel and vote whether or not how you want me to celebrate my 500 sub count. 8 hours, 12 hours, or 24-hour stream in celebration. I'll see y'all soon. Take care. Peace.